Introduce Dr. Ajay Duseja, sir. Sir is a professor in the Department of Hepatology, a postgraduate institute of medical education and research, Chandigarh. Sir has several awards to his credit, such as the Dharmveer Datta Memorial Oration Award 2006, Indian Council of Medical Research, ISG Alkem Om Prakash Memorial Award 2006 by the Indian Society of Gastroenterology, ISG SR Naik Memorial Award 2008 from the Indian Society of Gastroenterology, ISG Zydus Oration Award 2013, Indian Society of Gastroenterology. Sir has more than 250 publications to his credit in very reputed journals, include 25 chapters in books. And his research interests include non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, ACLF, viral hepatitis, and hepatocellular carcinoma. Welcome you, sir. And I'm personally very grateful that you could lend your expertise once again for this national webinar. Personally very, very thankful to have sir here with us once again, and for the series of webinars that we've been having. Sir has been the technical backbone, and his expertise has gone a long, long way in educating the participants in all of these webinars.
Kind words and the invitation, and my special thanks to Team ILBS and Team AIMS Nagpur today for the series of webinars. So as mentioned, my job is to give you some scientific evidence on the association of NAFLD or non-alcoholic fatty liver disease with various non-communicable diseases. I think by now you all must have understood that when we talk about fatty liver disease or NAFLD, we need to understand that this is a spectrum. Spectrum means that some patients can have just fat in the liver, what we call NAFL or non-alcoholic fatty liver. Some of them will progress on to a severe form of fatty liver disease, which is called NASH or non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, where in addition to fat in the liver, you also have some inflammation with or without fibrosis. This is usually a histological diagnosis, but you can predict the presence of NASH based on various non-invasive assessment. Once there is NASH, the chances of developing cirrhosis and its complications and liver cancer, they go up. And also the risk of having extrahepatic diseases, which we are discussing today, at least in my talk, also goes up if you have NASH with significant fibrosis. And these include, various kinds of extrahepatic diseases, which, as I said, are mentioned here. So again, what we need to understand is that other than the liver disease spectrum, fatty liver disease now has been shown to be having a lot of extrahepatic associations and is now considered a part and parcel of a multi-system disease, because the milieu is such, the metabolic syndrome and all its components, and people would believe that NAFLD is nothing but a hepatic component of metabolic syndrome. So when we talk about the extrahepatic associations, and if you look at this, majority of them are what we call the non-communicable diseases. May this be obesity or diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, sleep apnea, polycystic ovarian disease, chronic kidney disease, and cardiovascular diseases, and various malignancies. So these are all we know are non-communicable diseases. So NAFLD has been very closely associated with that. So what I'll show you in next 20-25 minutes or so would be that what is the evidence of association of NAFLD with all these non-communicable diseases, may it be obesity, diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia, or full-blown metabolic syndrome, and cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, and liver and the extrahepatic malignancies. Also, I'll show you some data about the kind of link which exists between patients with NAFLD and metabolic syndrome and its components, and we call it as a bidirectional link, which means that if you have, say, components of metabolic syndrome, say obesity, diabetes, or full-blown metabolic syndrome, your risk of having fatty liver disease certainly goes up. But on the other hand, if you just start with fatty liver and no metabolic risk factors, over a period of time, you are at a higher risk of developing metabolic complications, including, diabetes, hypertension, and full-blown metabolic syndrome. Also, metabolic risk factors and metabolic syndrome, which, as I said, are part and parcel of non-communicable diseases, are very important in determining the severity of fatty liver disease. As I said, all fatty liver disease are not same. Some can have just fat in their liver, others can have NASH with fibrosis, and that can progress on to cirrhosis and liver cancer. So there are various predictors for determining the severity of fatty liver disease, and metabolic risk factors or metabolic syndrome is one of the very important predictors for determining the severity. And finally, I'll show you some data about the association of NAFLD with cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, hepatic, and the extrahepatic malignancies. And again, I think what we need to again look at this is that when we talk about these associations, I think many a times fatty liver disease can be associated with all these extrahepatic associations, especially the risk of cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, and malignancies, independent of metabolic risk factors, which means that fatty liver disease is an independent risk factor for the development of cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, and malignancies. Okay, let me start that what is the kind of evidence we have for association of NAFLD with metabolic syndrome. Again, there are lots of studies on this, but this is one of the the largest studies of around 3,000 patients, so-called the Rotterdam study, and where 1/3 of these patients had fatty liver. And when they looked at the risk factors, I think if you look at this, these are all metabolic risk factors, or so-called the non-communicable disease, what we are talking today. The central obesity puts you at a risk of 5 times of having fatty liver disease. Diabetes maybe 2 times, hypertension 2 times, and dyslipidemia or high triglycerides maybe 1.5 times the risk of having fatty liver disease. This is our own Indian data from Chandigarh, where we studied around 1,000 blood donors, and 53% of them had fatty liver as assessed on ultrasound, and by exclusion of various other causes. And when we looked at the predictors of NAFLD in them, they were nothing but they were all metabolic risk factors other than the age, obesity as assessed by BMI, central obesity as assessed by the waist circumference, hypertension, cholesterol, and metabolic syndrome were independent predictors of NAFLD. So as I said, a lot of data to suggest that yes, and the metabolic risk factors and are very important predictors of NAFLD. Now let me show you some other angles on this association, that what is the kind of prevalence of NAFLD in patients, those who have these metabolic risk factors, say those who have obesity, those who have diabetes, and those who have metabolic syndrome. So what is the kind of prevalence of fatty liver disease in them, and is it higher or different from what we see in the general population? So definitely yes, and if you know about the general prevalence figures of fatty liver disease or NAFLD, I think from the meta-analytic studies, we know that around 1/4 of population, or maybe 1/3 of population globally, we are saying would have fatty liver disease, and that is true for Asia, and that is true for India as well. But if you look at the specific high risk groups, and one of the high risk groups which I said is the obesity. So this is one study where people, those who are undergoing bariatric surgery for obesity, right, and there they took the liver biopsies in them while they were going bariatric surgery, and they found that 93% of these so-called morbidly obese or severe obesity, which means BMI of 40 or more, had presence of hepatic steatosis. So this is a severe obese group. But even if you have a less severe obese group or overweight and obesity, your figures of having fatty liver disease are much higher than the general population. The same is true for those with diabetes. Again, this is an Indian study from Chennai, from Dr. V. Mohan's group. As I said, general population figures are again close to 25 to 30%, and they took diabetics, and they found that in the diabetes, the prevalence of fatty liver disease was in the tune of 55%, in comparison to 22.5% in those those who are non-diabetics or those who are normoglycemic. Again, as I said, there are lots of studies on this, but I have just to, summarize. I have picked up this very large meta-analysis, which comprised of 80 studies from 20 countries from Dr. Zubair Yunusi's group. And what they found was, again, the global prevalence of NAFLD in those with type 2 diabetes is close to around 55 or 56%. So which is, much higher or almost double than the general population figures, which I said is 25 to 30%. And even if you look at, this is an European study, and if you look at the prevalence of fatty liver disease in those with, the metabolic syndrome, which means 3 or more components of what we call the metabolic syndrome criteria or ATP3 criteria, here they found that 75% of people with metabolic syndrome had fatty liver disease, in contrast to around 18% in those without metabolic syndrome. And the overall prevalence of fatty liver disease was around 26%, which I said most of these studies would say. But in metabolic syndrome, it was 75%. So again, I think if you have metabolic syndrome or all its components, I think your risk of having fatty liver disease definitely goes up. Now, let's look at again from another angle, that what are the prevalence of metabolic risk factors in patients with fatty liver disease. Patients with diabetes, patients with obesity, or associated other metabolic risks will predominantly go to maybe internists, or maybe will go to endocrinologists or diabetologists, right? Or maybe obesity specialists, right? But to the hepatologist or to the gastroenterologist, people would come with incidental detection of fatty liver or incidental detection of rise in transaminases, right? So these kind of patients, if they come to you and if you try to look for metabolic, complications or metabolic risk factors in them, what is the kind of data we have? Again, for the sake of time, I'm showing you this, a large data from our country. This is our consortium data, what we call the Indian Consortium on non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, where we have 40 centers in this country who are participating and contributing to this particular consortium. And this was our interim analysis, which we presented this year in February in the Asia Pacific meeting, of around 4,000 patients. And if you look at the presence of metabolic risk factors and the metabolic syndrome in them, minus around 10-11% those who were lean. There's something called lean NAFLD or lean NASH. These are the patients, those who have fatty liver disease but have normal BMI. So this in our clinical practice is around 10-15%. And this large data again showed that around 11% were lean. Other than that, 90% of our patients are either overweight or obese. So which means, overweight and obesity is a major risk factor for fatty liver disease. And of the various components of metabolic syndrome, the central obesity, which was seen in around 84%, was the most common, metabolic risk factor. And overall, the metabolic syndrome was present in 43%. But more important is that at least one risk factor for metabolic syndrome, out of the 5 components of metabolic syndrome what we have, at least one component was present in 93% of these patients, which were close to 3,000 patients of fatty liver disease. Now, as I said about the bidirectional link, that some patients can come to you with fatty liver and they may not have any metabolic risk factor, which means that they may not have diabetes, they may not be obese, they may not be hypertensive, may not have metabolic syndrome. So now if you follow these patients up, what happens to them? Are they at an increased risk of developing, diabetes, hypertension, and metabolic risk factors? The answer is yes. And this is again the most quoted study on this, where patients with fatty liver with elevated liver enzymes were followed up for a mean follow-up period of around 13 years, around 130 patients, those who were biopsy-proven, NAFLD. And look at the figures here. When they started the study, the prevalence of fat diabetes was only around 8.5%. But at the end of the study, when they had a follow-up of around 88 patients, 69 of them, which is 78%, after a follow-up of around 13 years, had developed either full-blown diabetes or impaired glucose tolerance, thereby, saying that even if you don't have any metabolic, complications to begin with, fatty liver per se put you at a risk of, developing these, complications on long-term follow-up. And again, there are a lot of studies on this where people have shown so-called the development of what we say the incident diabetes mellitus over a period of, follow-up in patients with fatty liver, those who do not have, these complications when they start. And this is true even for hypertension, that, to begin with, no hypertension, but over a period of time, these patients with fatty liver disease are at a higher risk of, developing, a hypertension. And the same is, true for, full-blown metabolic syndrome. And this is again very one large meta-analysis where it has been shown that if you start with fatty liver disease, your risk of developing metabolic syndrome is around 2 times higher than somebody, who doesn't have fatty liver disease. So fatty liver disease is putting you at a risk of developing not only diabetes, hypertension, but full-blown metabolic syndrome over a period of, follow-up. Now, why this happens and how this happens, maybe I'll show you some, explanation for that. But before that, the third thing which I said is that the metabolic, syndrome and its components are also very important in determining so-called the severity of fatty liver disease. As I said, all fatty liver disease are not same. Some can have just fat in the liver. Others can have NASH, NASH with fibrosis, cirrhosis, and liver cancer. So the same, study which I showed you earlier, where they took biopsies in patients, those who were undergoing, bariatric surgery, the severe obese people, undergoing bariatric surgery, I showed you that the prevalence of NAFLD in them, or fat in the liver, was seen in 93%. But look at the figures of NASH here, which is 26%, which is quite high than what we've seen in the general population prevalence figures of maybe around 5 to 7% of NASH. And also, if you look at the prevalence of advanced fibrosis, which is 10%, which is advanced fibrosis means F3 or F4 fibrosis. And in addition, if you have more components of metabolic syndrome, for example, when these obese patients in addition had diabetes, the risk of having NASH and advanced fibrosis further increased in comparison to if you have only one risk factor. So again, this is the same meta-analysis which I showed earlier. In diabetics, again, the global prevalence of fatty liver disease would be 55%. But if you look at the prevalence of NASH in diabetics, it's 37%, much higher than the prevalence of, as I said, NASH in the general population. And also, if you look at the prevalence of advanced fibrosis, was also around 17% in diabetics. And similar kind of, data is available from various other studies where people have shown that if you have, these risk factors of diabetes, obesity, hypertension, dyslipidemia, your risk of, having progressive NASH, or your risk of having the progression of fibrosis, further goes up. And this is again a very nice study from, Baylor College of Medicine, US, where they have shown that if you have NAFLD and cirrhosis, your risk of having cirrhosis and HCC would go up if you have, these metabolic risk factors. And if you look at this, within the patients with NAFLD, the risk of having cirrhosis and HCC, if you have diabetes, obesity, hypertension, and dyslipidemia, the risk of HCC is around 5.5 times higher, and your risk of having cirrhosis is 2.5 times higher. Again, telling us that your risk of having severe liver disease, which is cirrhosis, liver cancer, goes up in patients with fatty liver disease if you have, these metabolic risk factors. Now, as I said, what is the link? I mean, how one is leading on to the other? I think the time will not permit me to get into the details, but I think we know that, once you have obesity or overweight or metabolic syndrome, and you have, peripheral insulin resistance, so there is increased delivery of free fatty acids into the liver from the adipose tissue, so-called the increased lipolysis. And it also increases what we call the de novo lipogenesis. Your dietary fatty acids are also contributing to fat in the liver, and the end result when it happens, there is fatty liver that leads on to the insulin resistance at the hepatic level or at the liver level. So normal function of insulin in the liver is the to inhibit the glucose production or gluconeogenesis and they store the glucose as glycogen. But once you have insulin resistance in the liver, that function of the insulin is impaired, and the insulin is not able to inhibit the production of glucose. So there is increased production of glucose, which is gluconeogenesis, increased glycogenolysis, and so end result is that there is a hyperglycemia or increased glucose in the blood, which leads on to secondary hyperinsulinemia or more of insulin secretion from the pancreas to control this blood sugar. And ultimately, when pancreas gets exhausted, you have what we call the type 2 diabetes. And this, hyperglycemia and hyperinsulinemia is also responsible for, various other effects, acting at the vascular level, leading on to atherosclerosis, cerebrovascular disease, cardiovascular disease, the coagulation parameters gets deranged, and and the end result is what, as I said, all the metabolic complications, including hypertension, as I said, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. So finally, I think I'll just show you some maybe 3-4 slides on the link between the NAFLD and the cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, and the malignancies. Again, there's a huge data, but again, for the sake of postgraduates, if there are any, I think what you need to remember is that in patients with fatty liver disease, when you look at the causes of death, it's not the liver disease which is the most common cause of death. It's the cardiovascular disease followed by malignancy, and the liver disease comes at number 3 as a cause of death in patients with fatty liver disease. Now, what kind of cardiac involvement can happen in patients with NAFLD? These are both, anatomical issues which can happen, which means that these patients can have more of, subclinical and frank, atherosclerosis, coronary artery calcification, aortic, stiffness, myocardial and epicardial, steatosis happens, and that leads on to, various functional issues in the myocardium, and leading on to, your prediction for the various cardiac arrhythmias, including the prolonged QTc interval, atrial fibrillation, and the LV diastolic and systolic dysfunction, leading on to congestive heart failure. And all this can happen independent of metabolic risk factors. Again, this is one meta-analysis which had shown and looked at the fatal and the non-fatal cardiovascular disease events in patients with NAFLD. And if you look at the diamond is towards NAFLD here, that both fatal and the non-fatal cardiovascular events, they happen much more commonly in patients with NAFLD in comparison to those who do not have this. The same kind of data is available for chronic kidney disease, and this is again one meta-analysis of very large number of participants, which has shown that if you have NAFLD, and within NAFLD, especially if you have NASH and advanced fibrosis, your risk of having chronic kidney disease is maybe 2.5 to maybe 3.5 or maybe 5 times higher than somebody who doesn't have fatty liver or the severe form of fatty liver, which is NASH and advanced fibrosis. This is again our own data to show that, again, we had seen that patients with fatty liver disease, we looked at micro and macro proteinuria in them, calculated their GFRs, and tried to look at whether they had impaired renal function. And we found that around 1/3 of our patients did have impaired renal function, and this is dependent on, again, the severity of liver disease, which was assessed by, the transient elastography by assessing the hepatic fibrosis, and the raised transaminases. They were all independent predictors of impaired renal function. As I said, the risk of hepatic and extrahepatic malignancies will go up in patients with fatty liver disease. And now in our clinical practice, around 20% of our patients with HCC are because of nothing but fatty liver disease, and around half of our patients, those who have HCC without cirrhosis, so-called non-cirrhotic HCC, are again because of fatty liver. And these figures over the years we have shown is increasing. The viral hepatitis or hepatitis B and C is probably coming down, and alcohol and NASH we have shown is probably going up as a etiology of HCC in this country as well. And as far as the extrahepatic malignancies is concerned, this is a very large meta-analysis and or of very large number of patients with a median follow-up of around 6 years, 8,000 patients developing extrahepatic cancers. And look at this, if you had fatty liver disease, the risk of having extrahepatic cancers, especially GI cancers like esophagus, stomach, pancreas, and colorectal, and even non-GI cancers actually went up, maybe 1.5 to 1.2 times higher than the general population. But the good news is that all this is preventable. All the, whether it's a cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, malignancies, or various other, parameters, if you are able to control, the metabolic risk factors in patients with fatty liver disease, you can control, not only the occurrence of all these, complications in patients with fatty liver disease, you can decrease the cardiovascular mortality, and you can also decrease the all-cause mortality in patients with fatty liver disease. So I think prevention obviously is the key in these patients, and the prevention of metabolic risk factors would be very, very important in these patients. So let me summarize what I said in last 20-30 minutes is that NAFLD is associated with a lot of extrahepatic diseases, and predominant amongst them are what we call the non-communicable diseases. And in the non-communicable diseases, the maximum association is what we call the metabolic syndrome and its components. And the link between the metabolic syndrome and the fatty liver disease is bidirectional, which means that patients with metabolic syndrome or its individual components are at an increased risk of having fatty liver disease. But on the other hand, if you just start with fat in the liver, over a period of time, your long-term risk of developing metabolic syndrome and all its components also goes up over a period of time. Metabolic syndrome, as I said, and its components also increase the severity of fatty liver disease, which means your risk of having NASH with fibrosis, cirrhosis, liver cancer, everything goes up if you have these metabolic risk factors in patients with fatty liver disease. And again, as I said, the risk of having the cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, malignancies all go up in patients with fatty liver disease. But the good news, as I said, is this is all preventable. If you control these metabolic risk factors, you can prevent all these complications, including the occurrence of cardiovascular disease and maybe the all-cause mortality. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and